podcast that you're listening to is being presented to you with the cooperation of the SJ Network. If you're a person who needs a publicist and you want to appear on podcasts, contact Stephen Joyner at s-j-network.com. Let's get on with the show.
Today's Sherpa Screening Room features an interview with actress, writer, and director Laura and Heaton Gray.
She's toured with a production company for Beauty and the Beast and has worked on The Walking Dead.
They should combine those two shows. Instead of Be Our Guest, they could sing Eat Our Guest.
Somehow, I get the feeling that Disney doesn't have you on speed dial.
Attention, rebels of the Sherpalution. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. We would like to give you a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial simply by heading to www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. There are over 180,000 titles of audiobooks and podcasts, including this one, to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And now, the one and only Mr. Bruce will lead you into the Sherpa Chalet. As a reminder, please refrain from smoking cigarettes, cigars, pipes, and marijuana. Also, do not set fire to the Sherpa's jokes. We need something to do between episodes.
Coming to you from Sherpa Chalet in beautiful downtown Mount Podcastia, it's time for entertainment interviews in the Sherpa Screening Room. Grab an aisle seat and a bucket of popcorn, but don't crunch too loud or you'll miss the show. Now, here's your host, Jim, the podcast Sherpa.
You've heard all that, and now you get to hear all this. Welcome to the Sherpa Screening Room, a presentation of Too Many Podcasts, hosted by me, Jim, the podcast Sherpa. Hello there, rebels of the Sherpalution. It is a pleasure to see you once again, well, or hear you once again, or you hear me. I don't know what I'm talking about, but what I do know is I know how to do interviews. Well, sort of. Okay, we'll move on to the next subject. So my guest today is an actress who started as a ballerina and toured with Beauty and the Beast and did a lot of other interesting things on her road to acting and then writing and then directing. I got to know her. She lives down south. Super nice person. Her name is Laura Ann Heaton Gray, and she's been behind a lot of different projects. And I got the chance to sit down with her and hear all about him and get to know her. And now you will have that opportunity to listen to that interview right about now. Hello, the Rebels. We are here in the Sherpa Screening Room, and my guest today is an actor, a screenwriter, a director, and a producer. And that almost lines up with about as long as her name is on the marquee. Her name is Laura Ann Heaton Gray, coming to us from Alabama, down south by the Roll Crimson Tide, right? Is that what we're supposed to say? I don't know. I don't follow football.
There we go.
Welcome to the show, Laura Ann.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. So now this all started because you wanted to be a ballerina.
Well, back in the day, so I grew up in Atlanta, and so I was really interested in the arts and singing and dance and all of that. And so I got involved with the Georgia Ballet when I was only, I think I was like 6 or 7 years old, and grew up in that program until I became the youngest company member to ever be asked to be in their company. And I was doing acting lessons and classes with Alliance Theater in Atlanta. And then I was also getting private voice lessons. And I was a part of some like audition only type groups, like chorus groups and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, dance is what started it all.
Ultimately, you ended up on the touring company for Beauty and the Beast?
Yes, I toured with Disney's Beauty and the Beast touring for a little while. It's actually a really crazy story, in that I kind of ran away from home.
Okay.
And I saw the notification for auditions for the show, and I had already seen it in New York. I came with my high school chorus group to a New York trip, and we went to several Broadway shows, and Beauty and the Beast was by far my favorite. It had already been one of my favorite Disney movies, and so getting to see that show on stage on Broadway, I just fell in love with it. And then when I saw the auditions that were happening for dancers and vocalists that were happening in Chicago to audition for the touring company for Beauty and the Beast, I ran away from home in order to pursue my dreams.
What part did you have when you toured?
So what I auditioned for was a dancer vocalist. So I did that for a little while, teacups and forks and spoons, and all that kind of stuff. And the townspeople that are, doing the cups and the Gaston scene in the cabin, and, a vocalist. And then the opportunity came to audition for one of the Silly Girls. And if you don't remember who they are the three girls who fawn over Gaston the whole time. And their roles in the actual live action version is a little bit different than in the movie. They have a much bigger role in it and a lot of fun character stuff that you get to do. And so I ended up being an understudy for that role, and I got to play it a few times.
Cool. You were an understudy fawner.
Yes.
and I guess doing that kind of pushed you further along to want to get into TV and films, I would presume?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So once I came off of that show, I came off of it because my dad pretty much begged me to come home. And he was a disabled veteran for the state of Alabama. And so I could go to any Alabama state-supported school on the GI Bill. And he's like, please don't, if you want to be in performance, that's always going to be there. But your education is not. And so he was like, you can go to any school and get your education. So please come home and let's, get you in a college in Alabama. And he wanted me to get into Alabama, of course, because he was a huge Alabama fan. But because I had quit school and ran away, I didn't have my degree. And so I ended up having to get a GED. And with Alabama, you have to take almost a year's worth of 099 classes that don't even count towards your degree if you only have a GED. But I could start right away with the University of North Alabama. And so I ended up going to the University of North Alabama. I got both a vocal scholarship, and then I decided that my dad decided that I need something to fall back on. And so outside of the arts. And so my major ended up being interior design at that point. But it wasn't where my heart was. I missed the theater. And so I ended up leaving that and becoming a theater major. And so I ended up majoring in theater and communications with a concentration in directing and arts management.
So then when did the audition start? Did you audition for something in Lifetime? Is that?
So I met my husband at college. Okay. And so we ended up getting married while I was still in college. He had already graduated. And so we accidentally started a family and ended up moving out to Texas. And so we already created a family. And so it had been a while since I had been involved in any kind of arts until the opportunity just randomly came to me. Someone came and asked me if I wanted to audition for this Lifetime pilot. It was a pilot called HR on Lifetime. And I just fell absolutely in love with the film industry, working with that pilot. And I went on to work with DBS Maids and Resurrection on ABC. And then I was on that set. And because I was falling in love with it, I had a lot of stories myself that at that time, I was still very young, but I've probably lived life for about 5 different people by now with my story and things that I even found out about my own past that was out of my memory. And I wanted to tell those stories. And so I started learning the craft of screenwriting in order to be able to tell those stories. And so then I went to a few of my screenwriting mentors that I had developed over social media. And I was like, okay, so I've got these scripts. How do I get them produced and directed and all of that? And they're like, well, there's no better way to do it than learn how to do it yourself. And I was like, well, okay, because typically unknown writer is not going to find somebody to take their script, right? And so they're like, learn how to do it yourself. And so I just started learning how to direct and how to produce and getting on sets and shadowing other directors and producers to, figure out the ropes. And I discovered that I'm really good at it and I have a really good time. And, it's special for me because I'm writing the content that I'm directing and I'm producing most of the time. And so, yeah, that's how I got into it all.
It's funny. I get to interview a lot of different creators and performers who kind of go down a road that's similar to yours, where they act and then they get the chance to write and direct. And I always ask them, well, what's it like when you're on one side of the camera and everything else with a new perspective on the other side of the camera?
Right. Well, that's one thing that I tell people, that if you actually want to direct or produce, you need to act first, because you need to understand what it's like to be in front of the camera. And, how a director relates to you is very important. And I think that being on the other side and acting, you are a better director and producer because you understand what that actor is going through, the process that they're going through and everything. And so, yeah, it's very, very important, in my opinion, for that to happen. So, yeah.
I noticed on your list of stuff that you've acted in, you did a project called Pretty Big Girl. Wasn't that with Christy Crandall? Wasn't she involved with that as well?
Yeah, that was a project that I wrote and produced. I ended up acting in it as well, simply because we couldn't really find the actor to our liking. And it wasn't a film per se, it was a proof of concept. And so it's very typical, especially when you're early in your career, if you don't have a name for yourself yet, then if you are approaching investors, then those investors want to see work that you have done. Mm-hmm. So what we did was we created a proof of concept with our team to show them the level of cinematic quality that we could produce if we were given the funds in order to produce that feature film. And so Christy, when I approached her about it, I was like, hey, I really want to do this project and everything. And she's like, I would love to help you. And so we just worked on it together, and she ended up co-directing it. And I let them have the reins on that so that I could concentrate on my character, because it was a very, very emotional project, because it deals a lot with like body image issues and self-esteem. And it was something that was written from personal experience. And so I felt like I needed to take a step back and just concentrate on the acting so that it could be authentic, and I, not distracted by all the different other aspects of directing when trying to do that role. And so, yeah, that's one of our projects that is still sitting in limbo. We've had a lot of people say it's a great concept, and we've had a lot of people who actually, loved the trailer. We submitted the trailer to a lot of different film festivals, and it won every single festival that it was put in for the trailer category, but we just haven't found that funding yet.
And I know that you were also actually nominated for a Christian Movie Award.
Yes. So with the International Christian Film Festival, so in the faith-based genre. The International Christian Film Festival was kind of on the same level as the secular Oscars. And so I was nominated in both 2020 and 2021 as Filmmaker of the Year.
Wow. And which projects were those that you were nominated for?
It's not based upon your projects. It's just based upon the work that you've done within the industry. Yeah.
Okay. That's fantastic. I mean, it's got to be great to have that sort of recognition, especially for 2 years in a row that you know that somebody's listening. I guess probably when people are working on smaller films, they're like, is anyone ever going to see this, or am I ever going to get known for anything? And then, bang.
Definitely. I had the opportunity this year to actually go and work with the International Christian Film Festival, working on their staff and coordinating their volunteers. And I approached the director and I was like, hey, so I was on a roll there, and I noticed that the Filmmaker of the Year award is not a category this year. Yeah, we didn't have that category this year, but I'm sure you would have been nominated again.
It's kind of like with certain country groups when the ACMs come out and they're going to be there like every year for like Entertainer of the Year. It's like, okay, we get it. You're good. Well, as a director, what's one thing that you like to have the actors that you're working with know when they're working on a project?
So as an actor, I've worked on a lot of different sets where, the atmosphere is completely different wherever you are. And I've worked on sets where it is absolutely chaotic and you can tell everyone is stressed out to the max, or I've worked on sets where everyone is absolutely toxic. And one of them is local here in Huntsville. I won't mention who they are. But I've worked on the sets, like I just finished working on a set with David Lipper, who played Viper on Full House, and he was directing this project. And the set was absolutely amazing. Everyone was so nice and supportive. And that kind of atmosphere is what I bring to the table. I want my actors to be comfortable. I want them to be stress-free. I want them to feel supported. And I want them to know that I'm here for them, no matter what it is in their personal life or whether they're in front of the camera. As a director, it's my job to make sure that you're good and not distracted by things, not bothered by things, because if you are, then that's going to affect your performance that I'm trying to get out of you. And I always make sure that I'm meeting with my talent to fully go through their character with them, where they came from. It may not be written in the script, but in my mind's eye, your character has had this kind of life, and this is why they make the decisions that they do in this glimpse of time that we see, so that they fully understand, their character arc and where they're coming from and where they're going and how they relate to the other characters, because then I get a better performance out of them.
And you were also a production manager on The Walking Dead?
For a little while in season 2, yes.
Yeah. What was that like? Well, that must have been a real interesting experience for you.
Oh, yeah. The Walking Dead is one of those sets where everyone is just so loving and supportive. And it's one of those favorites for sure.
So what is it like being a production manager? What exactly are you responsible for when you have a job like that?
So a production manager is working with, funding, budget, making sure that we're staying on budget with everything that we're doing, making sure that people are paid, making sure that it's a safe set. There's nothing going on that, might hurt somebody. Working, directly with the AD and safety and, stunts and all of that to make sure that it's a safe atmosphere and, there's no danger to anyone. And, primarily, if there's talent coming in and out, we're booking their flights, getting them home, booking their hotels, and all of that kind of good stuff. So it's definitely not the creative side of filmmaking. It's more logistics and making sure that the things that happen in front of the camera can happen because you've done your job to get them there.
It sounds kind of like a weird irony because you're saying that, you're working on The Walking Dead to make sure that everybody's safe, and it's a TV show where the zombies basically get their heads blown off. A little bit of a dichotomy going on there on camera.
I digress.
So you said you've got some other projects that are currently going on. You have several irons in the fire right now?
Yeah, so aside from Pretty Big Girl, we have a few things that are going on. We have another film called Stalling Seasons with String. It has its own Facebook page, as well as Pretty Big Girl does as well. We created a teaser for that one as well. It is a heart-wrenching story, but I took that story and I merged it with a comedy that I had already written, and I merged the two to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. Mm-hmm. So the story is a mother is diagnosed with terminal cancer. The doctors say there's absolutely zero chance of, surviving. And they're like, if you want to go through chemo and all of that, you definitely can, but there is no slowing this down. It's just too aggressive. And so she chooses to not go through all of that so that she can live her last days, which they're giving her, anywhere from 3 to 6 months. And she wants to live her last days without having to, be at the hospital every day taking treatments and radiation and all of that kind of stuff. And the story follows her family. She has a husband and a son and a daughter, and it follows their journey of grief for her, in their eyes, deciding to give up. So the son is extremely angry. He hates her. He thinks that she should fight. The husband's kind of caught in the middle of all of it. And the daughter, and this is where we get the title from, Stalling Seasons with String, is she asked her father, how long is it until mom dies? And they're sitting on the back patio, and he looks up at a tree and he says, you see the leaves on the tree? And she's like, yeah. He's like, when the leaves start falling from the tree, we'll know time is probably going to be near. And so we follow them throughout the summer, having a great time. And she invites a third party into the household to teach the husband and the family how to survive and how to, do normal everyday things when she's gone, like laundry and washing dishes and all that kind of stuff. And that's the comedic side of things. But when the leaves start falling off the tree, the daughter starts taking the leaves that have fallen on the ground and tying string on them and putting them back on the tree, because she thinks that if she can keep the leaves off the ground and on the tree, then she can keep her mother here for longer. And so that's the story. And we're going to start a crowdfunding platform really soon to start seeking the funding for that project. We actually filmed the teaser for that right as COVID was starting. And so that's, stalled a lot of things. And we had a team member who came to set with COVID and gave it to another person who ended up in the hospital for several months. And, out of respect for that situation, we just kind of halted things until everybody was good. And so we are about to start our crowdfunding platform to raise money to shoot that feature film. And again, that's Stalling Seasons with String. You can find the teaser on YouTube. We also have a Facebook page for that one. Secondly, we're about to start a show called A Wealth of Health. And it is a show that think the doctors, or Dr. Phil and some of the other doctor shows, and merge them all together. They all have this baby, and it's going to be topics of health that people can relate to and get answers to. We'll have doctors and therapists and nutritionists, coaches, like fitness coaches and all of that, who will be on the show bringing topics of health to help people live a healthy lifestyle. We've done a lot of research, and these are the kind of shows that really people want to see, and they watch it. If you look at how many views they get, it's out there. And so it's something that we've wanted to do for a long time, but weren't sure if people, really would catch on to it. But after we've done our research, we're like, oh yeah, people really like this stuff. And so we're moving forward with that. We're still in the development stage of that, creating the budget and all of that. So that's something else to look out for, is a wealth of health that'll be coming soon. We'll be hiring crew and all of that for that show.
And I would presume that with COVID and everything like that, it probably piques a lot of people's curiosities about, okay, well, what am I doing now to avoid COVID? Or I had it, and how do I not get it again? And I'm sure, right, those will be a lot of questions that'll probably come towards the doctor's ways. And, everything else also ties into it with, being healthy, eating healthy, exercising, having a good mindset and, and everything else.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the scope of the show is very well rounded. It is not only a physical self, but a mental self and a spiritual self, and from a holistic side, so that we give people, options of whatever their belief system is or whatever. These are the options for you for whatever, ailment you may have or whatever questions that you have, to give you options on how you can, live a healthy lifestyle that you desire.
I get to hear from a lot of different guests about COVID shutting everything down and, what are they doing to work around it? And I'm wondering why, we don't see a lot of movies about plagues and dealing with virus outbreaks and such. It seems to be almost like an avoided topic. Okay, well, we're living it right now, so let's not do a movie about it. Is that really kind of to make you forget about the reality of it?
Well, I think that it's one of those things. Whenever COVID hit, those movies that did touch on that subject that were filmed before, they all of a sudden were on Netflix and Amazon Prime and all of that, because they're like, oh, people can relate to this now, so let's throw this back up here. And I know of a lot of shows that I was seeing a lot of casting calls and stuff like that when COVID first started hitting, for shows that were in the genre, because filmmakers were trying to take advantage of that, because you want something that's relatable and people are going to watch it, So right after COVID hit, there was a film festival. It was an online film festival. It was called the Quarantine Film Festival, and it was put on by 24 Flicks. And they had all these different categories, and one of the categories was best quarantine themed film. And we actually did a film for that, and we won that category.
Really?
Yeah. So what we did was I had actors from all over the world. I was doing casting calls for all the different countries, because I wanted it as a found footage film of footage of that, people had taken on their cell phones or their cameras or whatever in the end of the world. And because of, the creativity behind that, we actually ended up winning the most, themed quarantine film.
I feel like because I've done so many interviews during the course of COVID that maybe at some point I can probably create my own little documentary with my life on Zoom for the last 2 years.
There you go.
If people want to find out some more about you, Laura Ann, where should they be looking?
Okay. Well, I have an IMDB, and it's Laura Ann Heaton Gray. I have a brand new YouTube channel that I'm starting to put my content on. I had several different ones all over the place, and so now I'm consolidating in one place as I'm kind of starting off my speaking career and all of that. I've had a lot of opportunities recently to go and speak to people, and I really enjoy it. And so I'm kind of consolidating so that, I can have one channel for people to go to. And that one is also Laura Ann Heaton Gray. And then my Facebook page is Laura Ann Heaton Gray.
Okay.
And, my Instagram is not Laura Ann Heaton Gray. My Instagram is actually Laura Ann .official on there. And then also I have a TikTok. My TikTok has 1.9 million on it. And it is Musically Laura Ann, because when I joined TikTok, it was actually not TikTok, it was Musically. And so I figured if I put Musically in my name, then I might get a little more views that way, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So my TikTok is Musically Laura Ann. And so that's a place if you want to see me being not speaky and serious, you can go over there and see me being silly.
Okay. So you won't be dressed like flatware or anything like that. You won't be reviving the Beauty and the Beast thing or anything.
No. I put a lot of... Actually, TikTok has been an inspiration for some of my scripts. I've written some TikToks that I, had people commenting, "You're a screenwriter, you need to turn this into an actual script." I'm like, And I've written scripts based upon some of those TikToks that I've written. So, yeah.
All right. So out of everything that you've done up to this point, what do you think stands out for you as being the most memorable?
That's a really good question. I think that... more than anything, probably Pretty Big Girl, just being a part of the whole writing process, because it was so personable to me, and getting to eventually act in something that I wrote. It just meant a lot to me. It's something that has stuck with me and something that I know that I'm supposed to produce. And it was a very rewarding experience to be able to go through. So it's aside from all the TV shows that you've seen on TV that I've been a part of, I think that is the most memorable and my favorite, because I was able to let loose and take what was in my brain and put it onto film.
Oh, now we know where to get in touch with you and everything like that. So if you have any exciting new projects and you want to let some of the rebels of the Sherpalution know, if you want to send me a link, I can share it on my social media as well.
Okay, awesome.
All right, so this was so much fun talking with you, Laura. I really appreciate you being on the show, and we'll be looking forward to some of your future projects.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for the opportunity.
We're on that internet thingy at Sherpalution.com.
Thank you so much to Laura Ann Heaton Gray for coming by the Sherpa Screening Room, and we will be keeping an eye on some of her upcoming projects. And maybe if you'd like to get a hint about some of those projects, why not follow me on social media? Follow me, yes, on Sherpalution. And that is on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, whatever your poison is. If you see Sherpalution, then I'm there. And you get to hear about updates to the show and upcoming guests and all sorts of fun stuff that goes on there. And Sherpalution is also an important word if you want to check out my website, Sherpalution.com. And that is where we have the archive of every single episode of Too Many Podcasts and the Sherpa Screening Room, all at your disposal, just with one website. And you can also hear some of my little side projects. And if you want to donate money, if you like, you don't have to. I'm not twisting your arm. I promise nobody's going to show up at your door. You can do that. Or if you want to buy, podcast merchandise. Yes, we have that there at the T Sherpa shop through the folks at tpublic.com. Some funny stuff. I like it. Anyway, next week, we're going to do it again. The Sherpa Screening Room one more time. And we will be speaking to voiceover actor Heath Martin, and this one was a good one. I really enjoyed speaking with him, and we got to hear all about his projects and so many great voices that he does. So don't miss it. Every Wednesday, 6 a.m., brand new episodes will appear on your feed as long as you subscribe. Poof, they will automatically be there. I promise you. I guarantee you that. It'll be there. So come back next week to the Sherpa Screening Room. Once again, a presentation of Too Many Podcasts. And Mr. Bruce, I am getting the giggles. We've got to get out of here. So let's just say, Viva la Sherpalution. Bye, Rebels.
Thanks for listening to the Sherpa Screening Room. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. I'm Mr. Bruce, and this has been a Sherpalu Studios production. Viva la Sherpalution!